on the Tuesday after Cheltenham. It was probably, I guess, 6, 7 o'clock after rolling out of the owners and trainers. Somehow, sort of wangled my way in there, and
15 Guinnesses down.
add another five on, and then we were waiting. So we were going back to kind of the Edinburgh Park Hotel, and there was kind of like just a load of taxis, sort of Aston Martins, actually sort of taking people back either to the helipad or to the hotel.
Jeez.
And there was a six-seater turned up, and three people got in. Wasn't paying any attention to it. Jumped in a taxi, looked in behind, see who was in it. It was Jamie McManus and Frank Berry in the back of the taxi. Couldn't believe it.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, I love
And
that.
after that, then sort of after head back to Cheltenham and then back to the hotel. And Lorcan Williams was in the hotel at the hotel bar at 2 in the morning, so had a couple of in before heading off to bed.
Oh,
He
mate,
was a happy
rubbing
chappy.
shoulders with everyone. Like
Yeah.
you say, it's all about networking, isn't it?
Position. Andy Power at the last fly. He's down. Andy Power has gone, but in front of the last left. Melody Lloyd.
Try the first time. They're running up towards the finish, and he's mistaken the winning post. He's mistaken the winning post completely, Roger Lockwood, and Hoyt for it.
From Archibald, Hardy who's got defends his title from Archibald who's flattened out in second. Then in front of him, right line is beginning to come. He's drifting off a true line. It's fine, and this must be home. Sprinters are going to win his fourth Betfair chase, and Cordo Star is still the king. Cordo Star wins.
Welcome to another episode of Tailed Off, episode number 12. This is a no-holds-barred podcast that dives headfirst into the wonderfully weird world of horse racing. So, today, guys, we have a very special episode. We are here with our very first guest on the pod, which is very exciting. We'll be covering a bit later what it's like to own and train a racehorse. So we'll get into a bit more detail. We've obviously heard from Elle over the last few weeks. We've referenced our own horses over the years. So looking forward to getting into a bit more detail, what it's like to actually own and train a racehorse from, let's face it, our favourite trainer in the country, for sure. And maybe in Ireland as well. But before we get into that, let's cover a couple of things, shall we? So we'll do the old trainers in form. We've had another good day, another good week, and a quick update from Call Out. So on Elle's horse, and he recently visited Newmarket, which is pretty good. So it'd be good to hear about that. We'll show a few pictures as well, and then we'll hear from our special guest. Let's get into trainers in form, shall we, Elle? So how are we doing?
Oh, well, it was nearly an unbelievable week. It was Tuesday, I think, I put two up, which could be the first time I've ever done that. Just sometimes you get none in a few days. Sometimes it's like buses, they two come at once. And so I put them up.
Yeah, I think you texted the group at like 11 or something.
My God. Well, I didn't want to say this, but the same thing happened the night before. So Monday night, obviously we had a few scoops, didn't we, mate, after golf. So I went to bed a little later than usual.
After I beat you at golf, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, oh, there it is.
That one quiet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay.
And I thought, oh, this is a bit late to be putting something on the Instagram, so I'll leave it. I'll wait for the morning. This horse that I had at tens next morning was like, looked at my phone, was 5-1. I was like, oh, do I put it up now? Next thing, it's 7-2, and it went and won on Monday. And I thought I can't do that again. So Tuesday night, even though it was late, I thought I'd put them both up. And sure enough, you know, they both were well backed. One was at Ponty, one was at Southall, and the first one was like led all the way up the straight and just got chinned on the line, and that was beaten ahead. So I thought that was bad enough. And then we're going on to the second one at Southall, and similar sort of thing, really. I thought, oh, here we go. And then bang, chinned on the line again. And that was beating a neck. So even shorter distance. So nearly an unbelievable week. They were both double figure prices. But a lot of people messaged on Insta to say they did the double. And, you know, the each way double would have paid nicely. So we got a bit of place money in the bank. So we're still hovering at around £65 profit, but very close to being an unbelievable week.
It's a lovely graph, mate. I'm liking it. I like it, nice and steady. There's no Donald,
like
there's
the
no
Vanguard
Donald Trump
graph,
politics going on here, is there?
It's
Like the
no stock
Vanguard,
market, is it?
Straight out there, mate.
There's someone I was speaking to, I think I messaged you boys and said, like, someone who doesn't follow the pod, so they need to get on and follow the pod, that they apparently had, like, I dread to think, but they made $1,000 on just the place money for the two in the double. And I was thinking, bloody hell, I mean, people are
Silly,
putting
that is
crazy money down on this, but fair play.
Hashtag gamble
No pressure,
irresponsibly.
It's going to
Yeah,
be gamble
yeah.
irresponsibly is what we go by.
yeah, that's the good example. Yeah. Awesome. Well, mate, keep it up. Right, so let's get on to Call Out then. So as a reminder, Elle has a share in a racehorse called Call Out. And you had a lovely little visit up to the stables, didn't you, the weekend? That was postponed a couple of weeks because of the small injury.
Yeah.
So how did it go?
Yeah, it was good, and it's very poignant that we've got our special guest on in a moment. Who is the one who got me involved into this horse, as he has.
It's his horse, really.
Yeah.
I think my bank statements would agree with you. Otherwise, I'm just paying for Pete's other horses, probably. But
Yeah.
yeah, so
Wait for Pete to chime in now.
he sadly couldn't join us at Newmarket. He was watching other horses in another country in France, so fingers
busy.
of many pies. So I was there on a solo mission, which was unusual, but great fun. First trip to Newmarket. I think you said last week, Matt, it's just a whole town dedicated to horse racing, which isn't surprising, but when you see it for the first time, it's like blows your mind. There's just horses crossing the road left, right and centre. I don't know how anyone gets anything done in that town because it's just completely overrun by racehorses. So, yeah, got down to the yard, met Jack in the morning, and obviously I met the horse. We'll stick the photos up. And a couple of the horses we've had before, they wouldn't be overly friendly, but walked over to his box and he came over and said hello straight away, put his head out his door, and got a nice little pat with him and good to say hello. And I have to say, he was looking in good spirits with himself. They call him Cooley for short in the yard, and they say he's a dude. That's the way they describe him. He's just so laid back, loves him, like he just loves being a racehorse. You can tell he's just exuberant, but not. Some horses sort of are a bit on the edge. This guy's just loving every minute of it, loves all the attention. And I said to the guy, do you usually ride it? The guy that was sort of getting him ready to go out on the gallops. His name was Cosmo. I don't know what his actual name was, but I'm not sure where that nickname came from. But he said, no, the lady that usually rides it was on a hen do. And he said, that's her loss because I'm not getting off this. I love this horse. So I thought that was a nice thing to hear.
Yeah,
And I was catching up with Jack for a bit. And actually, a horse had just come back from the gallops, and they said that it had coughed a little bit. And they got the vet straight in, and they said, Jack said to me, have you ever watched a horse being scoped? And I was like, well, no, I've heard about it loads of times, mostly from Nicky Henderson. And I thought, well, he said, do you want to watch it? So I went into the next stable, and then they get this massive endoscope out, which is like a tube, and they put it up the horse's nose, and then the guy looks through it from this weird machine, and they can sort of see if there's any mucus and stuff going on in there. And it was fascinating to watch. And then they pull out a little sample into this sort of massive pipette, and it was quite cloudy. So then that means they caught a potential infection very early and put it straight onto antibiotics. So it's kind of cool to see behind the scenes, really, of what goes on.
yeah, that is cool. Proper behind.
But you hadn't had lunch by that point.
I was like, this is a little bit close to the bone. I am a bit squeamish, so that was right on the threshold of what I can.
I was wondering where that story was going when they were like, have you ever seen a horse being scoped? For people that don't know what that is, sounds dodgy, but well explained.
Yeah, wrong end, mate.
Yeah.
Or the right end, depending on where you want to look.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I mean, the picture you put up of him looks great.
yeah.
Yeah.
We'll put the pictures up, won't we? Yeah, he looks great, like proper solid, good.
Yeah, Jack said
very
he's not
fit.
big, but he's a unit. He's
I was
like
about to say,
Yeah.
a picture of you and him, he looks quite short. Do you know how many hands he is?
he's 15.2, I think Jack said, which
Okay.
isn't overly big. But then I think for flat horses, they don't tend to be very tall, whereas jumpers would be. So
Yeah.
he didn't seem to
Big
think he was
things
that
come in
small,
small
but
packages, mate.
think so. Yeah. And we went up the gallop, so we got to go up Warren Hill, which is probably the most famous gallops in world of racing.
Cycled up that, mate. I
On your
literally
back.
cycled through. I've passed the Newmarket. Like I've literally cycled through that road that's got.
Okay, you know
the
exactly
gallops
what
on
I'm
both
talking
sides.
about.
Yeah.
Were
Yeah,
you blowing
smash
after it, Matt?
Yeah, mate. I wish I was on a horse. Yeah.
They do all the work.
Do you know a fun fact actually on because so that road that you would have cycled up on, we drove down it after they'd exercised, and he just gets them to walk gradually down to sort of cool down, I suppose, and recover their heart rate. And obviously he's like blowing quite hard as you'd expect. He said he was talking about I was saying, how do you know when they're ready? Because I thought while he's there, I'll ask some of the idiot questions. And he said, obviously they've got a bigger capacity than humans, so it takes them longer to recover from exercise. But if I said to you, this is a fit horse, how long in minutes would it be blowing for after exercise for it to then stop and then that be fit?
As in, like the lactic
Like
acid
fully,
is, as like recovered out of the muscles.
Yeah. So they will be
for a
blowing for a long
human,
time.
it's like for a human that's done like a max effort for like I don't know 20 minutes. It would take like a good 20 minutes. But if they've done like I don't know a couple of minutes, I'd say 10 minutes.
Yeah, bang on.
Yeah, lax
Was
racing
I-
knowledge.
Knows his onions. Become a trainer, Matt. Just become a trainer, Matt. There you go. You're done.
It's got big.
Pete's got a job for you.
Yeah, there we go. All right. On that note, then let's do a segue, shall we? So, let's welcome on our first guest, Mr. Pete Sullivan, who is the owner of Sullivan Racing, a hobby breeder, according to his Twitter description, and has horses in trainings. Welcome, Pete. Good to have you on the pod. How you doing?
Thanks for having me. Good to hear the pod is going well.
Well, it's going well. Like we've done 12, so you know.
We're enjoying it. I don't know if
I don't
anyone
know if
else
anyone
is.
follows it, mate. This might be a waste of time, but it's good.
It'll be boosted now. We'll get the Irish vote in anyway.
Yeah,
If we get one syndicate member out of it, we're doing well.
Shares
This is just
available.
That's really what
This
he's
is
here
just a-
for. Sell
just a plug.
shares, sell
It's just
shares.
a plug. Yeah, it's just a plug. Can we do like a discount code at the bottom or something?
Someone's got to pay for the Guinness.
Yeah. Send me money.
I guess those that don't know, like obviously I met you, Pete, through Elle a few years ago from the See the Eagle Fly Syndicate. So that was my first dip into horse racing ownership, anyway, which was good fun. And then were you involved in the next one, Coastal Sun? Can't remember.
No, didn't get involved in that one. I was kind of, I guess,
Like
growing
bullet there,
the operations in Ireland. So I guess that there's different times like you're at full capacity, and so yeah, I wasn't able to come into that one.
Yeah, nice. Well, we're going to bombard you with lots of questions, unfortunately, over the next sort of half an hour or so. So thanks again for coming on. But I guess before we start, shall we learn a bit more about how you got into horse racing? Now, I know you've got Irish roots, but it'd be good to know a bit more about how you actually got into the sport.
Yes, so always had a huge passion for the sport. Went racing as a child. Remember my first kind of Grand National winner, sort of 50p each way in party politics when I was like 8 years old. So been following it for ages. Always wanted to kind of be more involved and own. I guess prior to the internet, used to sort of be in the newspapers. There used to be adverts for elite racing like syndicates. So I was always wanting to get around to sort of going into that. I woke up one morning and I had an email, like a marketing email from Syndicates Racing, which is run by Jack Cantillon. So I saw that and I just thought, why not? I'll have a little go. And it was a small entry fee. I think it was about £100. Ended up with 2% in horse, and then went over to Ireland to see it for the first time, and just caught the bug from then. And it was just wanted more. So it's I think horses are a bit like a drug. Once you get on them, you can't get off it. And so then I guess speaking to people, and it's all about networking, growing kind of a group, growing syndicates. It's like myself having a chat with Elliot. I'd never met anybody in the workplace that was into racing as much as me, and Elliot's probably into racing more than me actually.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
So we kind of started with the idea, and it just grew from there. So that was like 2020 then, and so ended up getting Steph or See the Eagle Fly, first ever runner, and winning on debut, which is unbelievable. And then also
Absolute
at the same time had DeCapo Glory bought as a kind of a younger horse, a store horse. So he came on the scene in 2021. So I've had a good run of it over the last few years.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I remember that win. I See the Eagle Fly. It was
Unbelievable.
Yeah. The only shame was because of COVID. There was only six of us at the races. It would have been so different if it had been a packed Fontwell, and it would have been unbelievable. But yeah, it was still good all the same. And I still watch the video every kind of like sort of not every day now, but every few months. And whenever I hear the commentator on TV on another race, it just gives me that kind of. I always fall back into the race of that first win.
Yeah, and actually, like looking around with sort of trainers, I guess your sort of size is actually, like you say, you've had a good run of it compared to maybe others as well. So
Yeah, I was over in France. I didn't have a winner last weekend, but the weekend before I had the first winner in France. So I've had a winner every year since 2020. And I guess when I came into the game, you'd hear of people that have been in racing for 20 years and never had a winner.
Oh,
so
wow.
not doing too bad. And from small stakes, it's not like kind of spending big money either. It's kind of really kind of at the bottom end of the scale. And yeah, probably say don't want to have a big head, but punching above the weight.
Yeah. So what do you have, I guess, on that then in terms of what you have now? So what is your involvement now? Like how many horses do you have? Like how are you involved? Like, yeah.
I wouldn't like to say how many.
As well?
Yeah. So I've got two in France, and now one in Newmarket for the first time with Elliot, and we've gone into partnership with another syndicate, which I guess makes it a lot easier to get involved. Nice. And in Ireland, I've got one in training at the moment, James the Brave, and DeCapo Glory's had a kind of an injury end of last season, been out for this season, but hopefully he'll come back in July. And then it's more just the breeding side then. So I've got yearlings, 2-year-olds, foals, and then a few mares and 3 foals on the way.
Nice.
I had a foal last Friday actually. So, yeah, it's not going too bad.
And yeah, so what's the quite like a spread strategy, I guess.
Yeah,
What's the
I think
strategy?
yeah, I think horses are animals, and you can't predict what's around the corner, and some will be really good, some won't be. I think the benefit of syndicates is if you haven't got kind of an unlimited budget, you can get involved in more horses, and then the likelihood of you having a winner is higher. Whereas if you put all your money into one horse, you don't know what's around the corner, and you might end up a cropper. So I guess that's a benefit. Plus, the benefit is you get to share the experience as well. Like, I think
Yeah.
if I say had a horse in France, if I went there on my own and had 100% of it, it won. It wouldn't be the same feeling as going to the races with a group of friends and family and being involved with them and sharing that experience.
Yeah, I mean that's what attracted me. Apart from owners' enclosure, which we bang on about, thanks, Al. Like just being there with your mates, like all in, and even people that like we met, for example, like through horse racing, like just with people that like all backing that horse, all in the same group. Like is yeah, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting, and even though it doesn't work out, it's still good. Like it's still good fun. Like you're in it together, and it's a great experience.
Yeah. So over in Ireland, I'm in the syndicate with my auntie, and the Red Strand Syndicate it's called, and that's with Decapit Glory and James the Brave. And I've seen more of my auntie probably in the last 4 years than one of my uncles who lives about 15 minutes up the road, just because I've been over to Ireland so much, and we've been to races so many days out over the last 4 or 5 years.
Well, I was just going to say, good old See the Eagle Fly, Steph. She's had a foal, hasn't she?
Yeah.
She's had. So Skippy he's called, a Scirocco colt foal, doing really
Good
well.
name.
He'll be coming up a year old in a few weeks, and she's in foal again to Scirocco. That'll be it's the last year of Scirocco's because Scirocco's been retired, so there'll be no mares visiting this year. So she'll probably have a year off then. She's about, I'd say, looking at the calendar, about 4 to 6 weeks away from foaling, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. But she's done well. She's got a temperament. She's not the easiest to handle, but she's delivered a very nice foal last year, and so hopefully we get the same again this year. But
Yeah,
she's
I think
based in
that's
West Cork with my auntie.
it's quite interesting when you say that, Pete. 'Cause obviously, when Elle was talking about seeing call out and the different temperament of call out being really chilled out and relaxed, I remember meeting Steph at Harry's yard, and she seemed very much more kind of on edge in comparison
Yeah.
to
And I guess with trainers, then I guess they get to see the horse day in day out, and I guess when you go to a yard visit, you see the horse for kind of 10, 15 minutes and maybe an
yeah.
hour. You see a subset of it. But I remember being on the phone to Harry and said I was saying, "Oh, she's so nice." He was saying back to me, "No, she's not. She would take a lump out of you if she goes."
I don't know. It's like good to have a bit of feistiness, I guess, but
Yeah.
you need them a bit controlled as well. So yeah.
Yeah.
All right then. So you bought a few horses, which is an interesting process. So how do you buy a horse? Tell us a little bit about where do you go? I guess you go to some sort of auction. Even like how you pay, because there's this wonderful currency called guineas, which I didn't know about until I got into horse racing. So yeah, what's the whole process?
So well, just on the guineas. So yeah, guineas is used at Tats. So it's £1.05 basically. So whenever you see the price up, you just add 5% to it. But coming from background, even though I've been into racing for kind of all my life, I wouldn't have had the first clue about what to do. So I guess the first point, if you are going to buy a horse, you kind of need an agent. And whether that's a kind of a bloodstock agent or just speaking to a trainer directly, you need to kind of set that up. When you go to auction, you need to look at the horse, you need to get it vetted, you want to kind of consider its walk and see that it hasn't got any kind of vices. Is its wind okay? So it's very much speaking to kind of experts and getting involved with them. So I remember when Harry, we went up to Doncaster, but we didn't buy anything on the day because the shortlist went above budget, and we ended up buying Steph privately. But you need good people on your side, good people you can trust as well, and good reputations to help you through the process, etc. But yeah,
So would you start with? So let's say you got the capital, right? You got the money. Would you start the trainer and then go with the trainer, go with the agent, and go to like the auction place? How would you?
it's probably best to go to a trainer because you don't want to buy a horse at auction and not know where you're going to take it. So you want to have that kind of plan in place. That
Just walk out of this horse, like bloody hell, what do I do this now? Stick it in the garage until I get.
yeah. So you work with a trainer, and some trainers will work with specific agents as well. So
Oh, okay.
they just do a lot of the homework. So Anthony Bromley kind of gave the shortlist for Harry when we went up to Doncaster, and the level of, I guess, rigor and due diligence that goes into that is incredible. You've got somebody working for you. overly expensive, like typical bloodstock agents take 5% of the auction price, but it's well worth the kind of the value. You can avoid kind of lots of pitfalls. That you need to have a trainer you can trust, and for them to go up to the auction with you, and you'll see records of trainers when they've bought. Kind of, have they bought successfully? What's their track record with buying? Have they gone on to have winners, whether it's cheap purchases or not? And you kind of like work out kind of who are the people that you think you should be sort of backing, essentially.
Similar to like trainers, then you can sort of see the stats. I guess it makes out in terms
Yeah.
of
So
Yeah, okay.
in Ireland, or trainer Paul Duke Butler, he'd never bought a horse for more than 10,000, but nearly every horse that he's bought has won. So when we came in and we bought the Capo Glory for 6,000, which was incredible value when we look back at it, but Fame and Glories at the time were kind of very unfashionable. So that's the thing in auctions and in the sales, you get polarization towards a couple of stallions that were like Walk in the Park
Right.
and Blue Brazilian National Hunt. So at the time, Fame and Glories weren't in fashion, and he wasn't the biggest horse. So another thing is size. So if a national hunt horse isn't 16-1, 16-2, there'll be a lot of people that will turn their noses up at it. If they're a bit smaller, 15-3, 16 hands, which is slightly bigger than the kind of the flat horses that I was talking about, kind of that 15-2 for call out. But you kind of need a bit more size because they are either going over hurdles or over fences in time.
Yeah. Yeah. On the Takapo Glory, this is one of the questions, but I'll add it in. Do you think that's your most successful horse in terms of winnings?
Bob, yeah, by far. So in terms of kind of the ability of the horse to, I guess, to get to go to the festival, to be what I call the Olympics of it, and have my mum, and the two sisters there in the owners and trainers. Even we didn't win. Well, we had a cracking day. We came seventh. But coming to the last, or the second last, we thought we were still in it. So the kind of the blood pressure was up there, and I'll never forget it. I'd love to go back, but
I don't think I've ever seen you look so nervous, Pete.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I've never seen a man so quiet and nervous in my life as when we saw you that day.
Yeah,
Understandably.
No, it was a big day, and when I guess that's one of the things about having horses, and when you're in kind of a smaller syndicate like that, as opposed to being in, say, a kind of a bigger syndicate where there's 3,500, you get really involved in all the race planning. And so we had been talking about Cheltenham for ages, and it was nearly 2 years in planning. We decided not to go the year before, and then it was kind of for 12 months, everything was geared towards going to Cheltenham, and you kind of, it's like when you're a child and you wait for Christmas, and you're just waiting and waiting and waiting, and the big day comes, and you run a respectable race, and you're up against kind of people that have spent significantly more money, much bigger trainers, and so we held our own. So really happy with that. But
that is amazing.
yeah,
And you mentioned there like the small syndicates. I think I've only been involved in small syndicates. It helps obviously with that, like through L as well. Like obviously getting involved in like some recommendations of what races to go to. What the trainer's doing. Like it's quite interesting. And that for me is like what got me into the sport. Like I'm just fascinated by it. Like I don't really understand too much about it, so it's quite nice to be stuck in as opposed to being part of a syndicate. That's you're just probably being told this is what's happening. Pay your money. That's what happens.
and you compare it as a sport as well. I'd say L has a season ticket for Birmingham, and I used to have a season ticket for Man U many years ago. In my view, and people disagree with this, you're more of a passenger, whereas you feel more involved in the sport. When you've got a horse, you've chosen that horse, and they're going out to compete on your behalf. It's not like owning the football club, but it feels like you have a much more vested interest in the outcome of the
For the same
game, the
price
sport.
potentially as well. Elle, would you rather have a season ticket for Birmingham or a horse?
Christ, that's a tough one. It's like trying to choose your mother and your father.
That is the savagest question. That's like choosing your favourite child kind of thing, isn't it?
Another way to put it: would you give up the Birmingham season ticket for a Cheltenham Festival winner?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially now when they're in League One. Yeah, of course you would.
Championship next
Excuse
season
me.
now.
Excuse me.
Pete,
Championship
question.
next season, mate.
We're on the up.
Pete, a question on the when it comes to kind of picking races and stuff, especially kind of building up to Cheltenham and things like you said, it was kind of a year in the making. Do you find that you have like a massive say with with regards to what races the horse will go to, or are you kind of going on what the trainer tells you? Do you get much kind of power in that respect?
Yeah, I think in a smaller syndicate you can give your opinion more. I guess if you're one of 3,000, the trainer can't list 3,000 opinions, and he only has so many time. And also, if you're in a smaller yard, the trainer has more time as well. And I believe Elliot's found that with Jack in Newmarket. But if you're in a big yard that has 200-300 horses, the trainer hasn't got time to have 5-minute calls every week, so you're kind of limited. And ultimately, it'll be the trainer that makes the decision around what race, because that they know kind of how the horse is, they have the feel, they're working with the horse every day. So you can offer an opinion and share it, and you can do loads of homework yourself and share that information. Yeah, ultimately, it'll come down to trainer to say whether it's the right race or not, and whether the horse is in the right condition to make a big trip like that over to Cheltenham. So yeah, it was a big decision to make.
So just on that then, in terms of training, like how would you pick a trainer in terms of what trainer to go for, or what sort of things you're looking at?
So I guess kind of fell into it in Ireland with Paulie Butler. It's one location, who you know, one, it could be a connection, so kind of friend of the family, and Paulie was kind of like best friends with my first cousin over in Ireland, so to have that connection, a close connection like that, is important. If you're in the UK and you don't have those kind of connections, I think you're looking at geography in terms of where do you want to be
Yeah.
racing, because transport is a big cost in going racing. So if you want to be racing in the south of England, then you'll probably choose a trainer down south. If you want to go up north, X, Y, and Z, there's a kind of loads of variables. You look at trainer form, you look at kind of where they're going. You can call up a lot of trainers, so you don't have to sort of pick a trainer and just go with them. You can go and visit a yard, see if you get that feel. So I think it's like,
Okay.
I remember the first time I had a chat with Harry and went up to the yard, and he gave me a kind of look round and just had that feeling that, yeah, this is a yard that I kind of want to be involved in. It was just down the road in Lambourne, and I think we had a cracking year while we were with him.
Yeah, Valley of the Racehorse, Lambourne,
Yeah.
beautiful place.
How just on that though, like simply put, you just found Harry's number and just rang him, or how did you actually get in touch with him?
So I was looking at somewhere close because I wanted to not have the longer journey, and Lambourne, even though it was say about an hour away, it was one of the closer areas. I knew I wasn't going to go into say Nicky's yard, because Nicky wouldn't be interested in training a horse at kind of the budget kind of that I'd be going in with. So you're aiming at that. So had a conversation probably with you, Elliot, and was running past a few ideas. Harry had just won at Cheltenham as well, so I guess looking for kind of trainers that kind of on the up as well. So if you go into kind of like say Nicky Henderson, you have to go in there with kind of a big budget. If you're going into a yard that's starting off and is growing, it's a good time to be involved in them. So yeah, those are a few of the factors that probably came to the decision. Yeah, Harry's a lovely guy, very skilled at what he did. He had a number of good horses in the yard, and yeah, just clicked with him when first called him up.
And
Yeah,
what's
it
that
was
first conversation like though? When you just cold calling a trainer?
It's just wait, you could cold call sort of loads of trainers and just say happen to potentially get involved in a horse. So you could give a trainer a call tomorrow and say I want to buy a horse. I'm not willing to buy the whole thing. Want to go for a leg? Do you have any options? You just take it from there. It's like a cold call and find out one whether they've got space in the yard. There'll be some trainers that'll be full up. There'll be some that won't be interested in the budget that you have. So you have to just call up another trainer. There's no harm in asking. If you don't ask, you don't get. It's the
Yeah,
nature I live by.
Point.
it's quite interesting actually. So you're sort of phoning around doing deals, aren't you? Really, that's what you're doing, trying to
Yeah,
find
so
someone.
so you can call a lot of trainers. You can call 10, get different prices, understand what they do, what their plans are, what they want to do, and what ideas. Each trainer will have their kind of own, I guess, modus operandi in terms of what they do with that budget. Harry was very much focused on getting a juvenile, so it was kind of an easy kind of division to have a crack at for the money that we were going for, and he was proved right when she won the first race.
Yeah, nice. All right, so you got a horse. Popped down to the local auction, bought a horse with some guineas. Got yourself a trainer. Got your agent. Now you need to get some shares, which I guess is when you set up a syndicate. You need to sell off a share of that horse. How would you actually like set up a syndicate?
There's a sensible way of doing it, and there's a crazy way of doing it. And I probably start off the crazy way. I didn't have all the shares sold when I bought the horse, so there was a lot of pressure on that first race. But yeah, when I went back into the pub after the first race, she was the one who I sold the rest of the horse that night.
Yeah, yeah. More relief than anything.
Yeah.
On champagne after that.
So you got two options. You can either sort of get a group together before you buy the horse. Depends on what size. You might have 5 people. You might have 10 people. And you all agree this is our budget and we're going to go and do it. And so you've got the syndicate is set up there before you can buy the horse. Or you can, so what I did back then, which I guess it's been a long time since I had a horse in the UK, so I wouldn't do it again probably. But you can buy a horse and then try and sell shares. And what I found and lessons learned, it's not easy. It's easy to sell a few shares to get somebody to buy into 100% of the cost, and it's not a cheap sport to be involved in at the time. So yeah, to sell all those shares isn't easy, and you need a good number of people. And when you're selling, say, 2.5% or 5%, you need to find, let's say, 10 or 20 people. It can be not that easy to do.
I guess you've
it's
got to be
quite
really
tough.
honest with them as well in terms of
Yeah,
like horse racing isn't necessarily a sport that you're going to make money off, which is what I think people think. Oh, I'm just going to make money on this. It's like very rarely
yeah,
do people get that lucky.
yeah. And I think when you set them up, if you've got one chance at the game as well, in terms of like, so you've got one chance with trainers. If you were to sort of turn a trainer over, like sort of you've seen some instances, I think with Rebecca Menzies recently, where a syndicate group have taken the money off the syndicate members, haven't paid the trainer, and just done a runner essentially, and the
Oh
trainers left the
wow.
horse, and the syndicate members don't have anything. So yeah, you need to be transparent and build up trust as you go along. And obviously, I think it's good. Like so Elliot, that sort of is gone in again with me, so that's proof in the pudding that I didn't do too bad the first time round.
Managed to drag a few in with
Yeah.
me that first time though.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I went
But
into it like a massive, like great
Blind.
experience. I was like, I went in blind, and I just wanted
Yeah.
experience. Now, COVID is quite unfortunate. I still had a great time, but like, yeah, COVID was unfortunate.
no, all
I
good.
think it may have changed a lot. I think, like you say, with COVID, and obviously
Yeah.
Steph won first time out. But like you said, Pete, imagine if we were all there. Like I think it would have just been like, right, let's get another horse now. Like we're ready. Let's do it. We've completed it
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Got the bug. Got the bug.
Pete
Yeah,
did
yeah,
that, didn't
exactly.
he?
But yeah, no, I think it's a great sport to be involved in.
What
It is
about
great, and actually, like, sorry, there's so many perks as an owner as well. Like, you just, like it's great. Like, it's this little like, owners enclosures. Obviously, you get your own sort of restaurant area, and you get extra tickets. Like, it's such a nice experience. So yeah, it's good.
Yes, it's nice to, I guess, when you're, let's say, if you're trying to get new syndicate members in and things like that, you can give a few badges away. And yeah, different race courses have different levels of service. Like I remember when we had Steph and we went to Aintree, I thought that was one of the best
Oh,
meals that I've had at the
that was so
Unbelievable.
good. So
race
good.
course. And Cheltenham's good as well. And kind of some of the race courses in like Punchestown in the festival is just unbelievable. It's very small. It's kind of you're limited to four per
Nice.
kind of per horse. But yeah, it's a really good service they put on.
Yeah, nice. Sorry, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, you said about how you kind of find the syndicate members, but how do you actually become an owner with the BHA? Is that a painful process?
Yeah, I think there's lots of things like that's the costs that come out of the woodwork. There's admin fees. There's you register your colours. You have to pay every year to keep the colours. So since I registered the colours back in 2020, haven't used them in 3 years, but I've been paying kind of 70 or 80 quid a year to keep them, even though it's pretty unlikely that somebody's going to choose those same colours. But you just keep them just for the sake of it. You've certain fees to get set up. Now with syndicates, I guess because there's been some syndicate managers that haven't done the best job. There's more regulation coming in, and with regulation comes more paperwork. And I know Paddy Brennan, I think, was talking about it on his podcast. So I'm not licensed at this point in time, and so this is the last year that you can run a syndicate. So I haven't been through the process of licensing, but all I've heard is that it's huge, lots of paperwork, and Weatherby's are the bank that generally sort of go hand in hand with the BHA, and yeah, they have large banking fees, etc. as well. So it's just trying to keep the costs down so that from a syndicate member's perspective, they're not paying over the odds for something that they don't really need. All they want a day out. They don't want extra admin fees. So that's
Yeah, it's tough old. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I was laughing when you said Weatherby's because they was telling me there's a special horse racing bank, Weatherby's. I was like, what? But it sort of makes sense because you can't just be paying into like your personal account or whatever whenever you get, or your business account whenever you get any winnings or your costs and stuff. So it sort of makes sense. But I guess you got there's just like so many steps where someone's
yeah,
taking a cut of
yeah.
of what of the winnings or of the cost. So yeah,
I
it is
think
what it
when
is.
the first had Steph, and I'm an accountant by trade, and you can
But that
register
was a
to be
shock to the old books.
you,
Yeah.
you,
We're in the
you,
red.
you can register for VAT, so you can claim back the VAT from the costs
That's good.
of the horse. And I was paying kind of the BHA, or signed up for them to do it for me, so you had less paperwork to do. And I haven't done VAT returns in the past, and I got the bill, and it was one VAT return, which was a kind of over a 9 month period, because we were going back to when we bought the horse, and they charged £500 for doing a VAT return. And I thought, this is 20 minutes work. And
Jeez.
so I cancelled there and then, and did the VAT returns myself there on in. But yeah, it was just incredibly expensive for not a huge job.
Syndicate owner, like all of these costs and things, like when you were speaking about like the hidden things and like the new regulations and things that are coming in with having to go through all this paperwork, it's almost going to put people off wanting to do that. So unless you're kind of in it and understand it all, it's almost like you kind of like, I think you're in a potentially a pretty good position for it now, because you kind of understand a lot of what's going on. For people like me or Elle or Matt that say, "Oh, I want to go and do that," it'd probably be a massive headache and a massive shock.
Yeah, and I think that I won't name names, but there was one individual that sort of didn't pay then, sort of when they're in the Steph Syndicate. So you run the risk of bad debt as well. So you kind of need to trust everyone you get going in.
You sent us round, Pete. You sent the boys round.
I assume it wasn't one of us before we go down.
No,
this road, right?
no.
You're in arrears.
All right. So you set up a syndicate. You got a horse. You got a trainer. So where do you actually then decide where to race the horse, which is the biggest probably decision you make, apart from obviously buying the horse? Yeah. What goes into that sort of thought process and that decision making?
So I guess a lot of the influence of where the horse is going to race is based on the type of horse that you bought. So clearly, if you bought a National Hunt horse, you plan to go over jumps.
Flat horse on jumps.
And then you just look at the program. So you can download the programs from either in the UK from the BHA site, from HRI in Ireland, or France Gallo in France. And then you just look at what races that horse can get into. So there'll be eligibility criteria. There'll be some races specific to fillies, some races open to both sexes. So if you've got a filly, you might target a fillies race just because there's less competition than running against the boys. You look at kind of the program. If it's a 3-year-old, as Steph was, you're looking at juvenile races. And when you whittle it down to that distance to the ground, it becomes a very small program that across 2 or 3 months there might have been 5 or 6 races, and then you just think, okay, she'll need a break between races. Wherever you start, there's kind of a route. Then there might be kind of a plan A, plan B, depending on how things go, depending on if your handicap mark changes. But you come up with a plan and then you take it from there, and then you take each day as it comes in. So depending on how they get on that first race, if they run better than expected, worse than expected, you might give a break, and then you just do it all over again. But you clearly the trainers will have their, I guess, habits. So they'll have races that they've targeted before, and if they've done well in them, they'll probably have kind of a more likely to go for them, and you can work with them because coming into the sport, they've been doing that. That is their livelihood. That they've been race planning every day. It
must be
it
so
determines
hard to
what,
go against against your heart though.
But, yeah,
like, I was thinking of Elle like call out in Windsor. It turns out it's not good horse for Windsor. You're like, oh no.
Yeah.
We'll make it a good horse at Windsor.
Yeah. Make or break.
What
Same
Pete likes
right.
to do, just send me the program and then just let me whittle it down. And then I'll tell him where we're going.
It sort of makes sense. So you're basically getting your horse fit for the first race and then see how it goes. Like, they might need a bit longer,
Yeah.
So it's sort of, yeah.
You might have a horse that might be making a debut as well. So you just see where it takes you. You don't know what a horse is going to do until they hit the racetrack for the first time. And if you've brought a horse over from, say, Ireland to the UK, you don't know how they're going to settle in, how long it will take, and you just wait until the first race, and then after that you kind of digest all that information. You spend about a week watching the race over and over again, and then coming up with a plan. Touch wood that the horse is all okay after the race, they come back safe and sound.
That's the other thing as well, isn't it? Like when you're saying about see how if the horse is coming over from Ireland or it's its first time out. I think so many people still think horses are like machines. They're just like they'll run the same thing. It doesn't matter where they are, what they're doing. They'll just run, and that's that. That's all they do. It's like no, that's not the case. Horses can have bad days. They can have great days. Steph obviously winning first time out. Then obviously she didn't win it again. Unfortunately, she was very unlucky. But you just never know.
So some horses will start telling you that they don't want to race anymore, and I think Steph eventually kind of told us that. So then kind of we retired her and took her over to Ireland then.
Yeah, she's living her best life.
Well, yeah, I think that's quite good actually. So let's get on to the breeding side then. So what's breeding like? So how much does it cost? Like, how does it even work? Like you just get a stallion, rock up, and you just decide that's the one you want, and off you go.
Literally rock up.
Yeah. So you have you have a mare. Say you bought a mare. Let's say Steph, for example, and then you have to choose a stallion. And so you're looking at what stallion will suit her best, and that can be around. Say if you've got a small mare, that's say 15.2, 15.3, and you want to breed a national hunt horse, then you're likely to go to a big stallion because in terms of height, it's like genetics with humans. If you go to a big stallion, you're likely to have a bigger horse than when they grow up. So you look at the mare, the quality of the mare you got. So you're not going to take an 80 rated national hunt horse to walk in the park because one, commercially, you're just not going to get the money back. So you focus on, if you've got a black type mare, you're probably going there, and you're just trying to give the right match. So depending on conformation, so Steph's quite a long horse in terms she's got a long back, so you might look at a stallion that's got a shorter back to sort of complement and sort of match her thing, and so that you end up with kind of the right product at the end and a horse that can win races. And also, if trying to be a commercial breeder, Steph probably isn't commercial. That's the reality of it. That's why we haven't taken the foals to the sales, because there's the cost of taking a foal to the sales, the cost of entering into the sale, and so we'll leave it to the stock to do the talking on the track.
So,
whether it be a point to point or
who takes those foals then? What happens to
so
those foals?
so they're at home in West Cork. My auntie's looking after sort of Steph and the foals. So
they're not. So you say they're not. You're not going to take them to an auction. So what will you do with those? Do they just look
so they'll stay. So say in Ireland, I guess there's 3-year-old races coming up. They're going to similar to what they've done over here, kind of academy races. But generally, you'd be looking at point to points as a 4-year-old.
Okay.
So you're keeping them for a long time. So there's a lot of maintenance to come with that, and a lot of cost over years, and anything can happen in that time. But yeah, you're just hoping that everything goes well and the horse is able to win on the track then. Or
Yeah. Okay.
Pete, question.
point to point.
Might be a dumb question, Pete. But obviously, with a horse that you're breeding and things like that, so like say Steph's, the foals and things like that. In terms of like having to break them in before they can obviously race, like how is that a thing? Do you have to go around doing that, or?
Yes, so there's lots of conversation about the kind of the French model and the Irish model and the UK model, and why are French horses winning so many races in Cheltenham and things like that. So generally, if you were selling a horse, a national hunt horse, you'd either sell as a foal or as a store. So, and when you're selling as a store as a 3-year-old, they're generally untried. So you go and buy the horse as a 3-year-old, and then you take it to your trainer or pre-trainer, and then they break them in there. And but in France, they break them in a lot younger, so they might break them in when they're yearlings.
Okay.
So there'd be different opinions on that, but it seems to be working in the French system. But then they can be kind of going over hurdles and fences as 3-year-olds in France. So there's a different program. So I guess the auction houses in Ireland are set up for the program. So at the moment there wasn't races for 3-year-olds or a proper program over hurdles. It was all revolved around 4-year-old point to points. But therefore it made sense for them to be selling stores as 3-year-olds. Used to be a lot kind of later developers as well. These 4-year-olds used to be sold as stores, but it's all changing. It's getting earlier because clearly, from a commercial point of view, the sooner you can get them to the track and get them racing, and maybe move a horse on if you're looking to sell, is the better for both the breeder and or the pinhooker. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. So just before we get into the last couple of questions, and so just a recap, so you got two in France. You've got obviously one mare in Ireland, which is Steph.
3 mares in Ireland. So
Three mares, sorry.
Yeah.
3 mares, and how many fowls have you got?
So we had Steph had a foal last year, and Steph had another foal. I bought a mare in Goffs, a flat mare called Where Sue in November, who had a foal last Friday out of Naval Crown. So that's the first kind of into kind of flat breeding. And then there's another mare, Lady Artemis, who I bought back in 21, and she's in foal to Harzand, who's having a cracking year. So hopefully we'll have a nice foal, but she won't be sort of due until July. It's a very late foal.
No, just a quick question, because it's something you mentioned a bit earlier, and I think the listeners will probably hear this all the time on the TV and stuff. You mentioned something called black type. What is that, and why is that important for breeding?
So when you look at a pedigree in the sales, you'll look at the lineage, the kind of what's happened in the family history, and you'll be going back and you look back at the last 3 dams or 3 mothers, shall we say, of that pedigree. And black type is where they've won either on the flat a group race or a graded race over jumps. So clearly, if it's like if you're breeding from Steffi Graf and Andre Agassi, the odds of them having a good tennis player quite high. The same with horses. If you're the family pedigree have bred Cheltenham winner after Cheltenham winner. I think there's a mare called Matney which has bred Caldwell Potter and whole host of other siblings. So if you've got that on the page as a buyer of that stock, your chances of buying kind of a very good racehorse increase. So you really want to get black type on the page because it increases the value of what you're selling then, so it becomes more commercial. Whereas if you're selling from a family that hasn't had any black type and is unproven, then it's a bit tougher selling at auction, so you're more likely to go down to try and prove them on the racetrack. So there's less risk for the buyer then.
It's almost like once you've had a winner, you're sort of sorted, obviously from a winning perspective, but then breeding as well. Like you know,
yeah,
big winner anyway.
The mare needs to prove herself. So if that mare, I guess if you were to breed a Derby winner, that mare, every foal it has then for the rest of the time is going to sell well at auction. Yeah, that's the dream, to sort of breed kind of not only a winning racehorse, but breed kind of something that picks up black type, and then you get your reputation in terms of this hotel, as they call it, is able to produce kind of really good winners.
And
Just in terms of price, Duncan, so how much would one go a good stallion cost?
So Frankel will be 350,000. So
boys, that's what we need to get into.
Yeah.
Let's get into that. How do we get into that?
Whereas, I guess there's different areas of the market. It's no different to buying racehorses. I'll be operating at a different end of the market, unless you ended up with a very good mare, and then you can have kind of a conversation with the stud. If she's very commercial, then you go down the route of doing foal shares where you don't pay anything, but you're giving the kind of the stud a half share in the foal that will be sold in the auction. So it's managing cash flow. It becomes then it's a business operation ultimately.
Yeah, exactly.
How much Scirocco? You said you took Steph there, so that's the lower end.
I think its cover price would have been, I think it was 5k. Okay,
So that's probably the bottom end of the market, 5k.
Yeah, I wouldn't say so. So National Hunt, well, clearly it's Walk in the Park and Blue Brazil will be up 20k. Then you'll have a few around kind of 8 to 10, and then 5 is a decent amount of money for kind of a National Hunt sire. So. But yeah, and then you get concession fees if you breed a filly. So sometimes you can get kind of a discount on the foal if you've had a filly rather than a colt.
Right. Two final questions then, Pete, because we've bombarded you with a lot of questions here. So tell me, what is the best thing about being an owner, and what is the worst thing about being an owner?
I think the best thing clearly having a winner. There is nothing that
Roll the tape.
and the day out. So
Steph now.
Yeah.
Come on, Steph! Come on, Steph! Come on!
And see the eagle fly together.
Go on! Go on, Manny! Go on! Go on! Go on! Go on, my Manny! Oh, go on! Come on!
And then I guess the worst thing is probably injuries. To Capo Glory is tough to miss a season.
Yeah.
And you can be so lucky with horses and things like that. But yeah, they can pick up an injury, and it's a tough thing for the horse and a tough thing.
Lovely. Well, thank you again, Pete. That was actually really interesting. So thank you for your time. Thank you for letting us bombard you with the questions, and
no worries.
A little round of applause. So thank you.
Yeah, cheers, Pete.
Much.
And fair play.
Thanks for having me on.
Now you got to stay.
Sticking around. Yeah, I was going to say Pete's sticking around for the tips. Come on.
Yeah, because we're going to do a quick sort of wrap up on the Scottish Grand National. So we need a few tips, Pete. We need another
Take us a
diverse
winner,
one,
Pete.
because
Take us a winner.
you can take my tips because they obviously don't work because I don't know anything. So
I was just going to say as well, it was nice of Pete to join us from prison. That came to me about 20 minutes ago.
You've been waiting to say that. You've been waiting to say that for so long,
He's been
haven't you?
standing on that for a long time. Yeah.
Hashtag porridge.
I've just come back from France.
Where's the onions?
Yeah, where's your beret?
Sorry,
Well,
mate.
thank you for making time with us in prison. We appreciate that. Why are you in prison? Is it to do with your race?
He killed the geezer, didn't pay for Steph.
Yeah, those regulations. Is that because of
Money
you?
laundering.
We'll stop because I'll get P in trouble. Anyway, let's get on to the Scottish Grand National then, shall we? So, we've got a few picks coming up. Is this weekend? Is it?
Yeah, Sunday.
Yeah, Saturday.
Yeah. Good to know. Sunday, is it? Fuck you. Right. Let's get on to it then, El. Right, you can start then. So what are you saying then for the Scottish Grand National?
Yeah, I just run for a few pointers because we did this for Aintree, and it's just helpful to.
Well,
Well, that's a good reminder. So it didn't work very well. More the
Hang
principle
on.
and the process.
no,
Please
I
watch
think
the
it
last
did
pod.
weight-wise. I think it did. I think
But
it did
The
weight-wise.
winner
on
was
that.
literally everything we said you need. We just didn't pick it.
We just didn't pick it.
We're 34 runners. Come
Didn't
on.
appeal.
So obviously you got it's the Scottish Grand National, and we've just had the Grand National. Obviously the English, the main and the best version. And you'd be easy to think, well, they're the same sort of race. There's some similarities in that it's over 4 miles, but and the track's probably not massively dissimilar in terms of its flat. But obviously Aintree's got all the unique fences, but there are a few kind of key differences in terms of the trends of horses that tend to win this race. So we said at Aintree is that actually in recent years, since they made the race easier, the classier horses, i.e. the top weights, were doing better. And I think the first 3 home were 3 of the top 4 in the weights, so that proves that point, kind of underlines it. Whereas actually in the Scottish Grand National, it tends to go to horses that are actually more towards the bottom of the weights. So 13 of the last 19 winners carried 10 stone 9 or less. So actually it's the complete kind of flip reverse of what we were looking for at Aintree. And then similar inverse of trends, we said that novices don't have a great record at Aintree, but actually they have a really good record in this race, and 4 of the last 8 winners were novices, including McDermott, who won it last year. So I wouldn't worry about horses that are kind of inexperienced over fences. And in terms of runs in that season, none of the last 12 winners had over 6 races. So because it comes right at the end of the jump season, some horses, this might just be one race too many. So novices, lowly weights tends to be the way to go. And as I say, because some horses start to peter off at the end of the season, you generally want a horse that in its last run has kind of performed pretty well. So 12 of the last 15 winners had finished in the top 5 last time out. So again, you want a horse that's proven it's still holding its form, and this race won't be one too many. And then finally, a bit similar to Aintree in that it's quite a sharp track and they go quite quick, so you don't really want a horse held up. Last year's winner McDermott kind of proved that from racing prominently. So those are 4 areas to focus on when you're picking your winner.
Yeah, good reminder, El. Thanks for that. And is this the last? Would you say is this the last sort of jumps race?
No, there's
Sandown
big
as well.
race.
Yeah,
Sandown as
there's
well. Okay.
in the UK you've got this weekend, and then in 2 weeks you've got literally is a final day at Sandown, where the sort of jumps and trainers and jockeys championships are decided and stuff like that. So
Right. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, so it's nearly literally the end of the jump season now.
We're waiting for the biggest festival of the year in Punchestown.
Oh, here he chimes in.
Here we go.
Mute him.
The end of the month, so it'll be
End of
kind
the
of
month,
late April, early May.
We
Are you over
actually,
there?
talking of ownership, we were over there, a few of us, to watch Pete's horse, the Capo Glory, run at the Punchestown Festival, finishing 3rd in a Grade 1 to who?
El Fabiolo.
There you go.
Conditions race it was actually, but yeah,
Keep
that,
it
that was
company.
he won at Gowan Park by I think 29 lengths, and then Punchestown was the next day out. El Fabiolo had I don't know if he'd beaten John Bon or was beaten by John Bon at Aintree, and then went to Punchestown, and then we were 3rd to him. So yeah, we knew we knew we were onto a good one then after that day.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Unbelievable.
Well, can't wait to see that. See it run again soon. All right, then let's get on to the tips. So go then, Duncan. I'll let you go first.
Yeah,
We
wait
go-
for the shit tips. Here we go.
Drum roll.
I think I've got 2 main ones, but I mean, the first one obviously to call out, like we know now, Willie is clearly going for the British Championship back to back, and he made it clear at the Grand National meet last weekend that he's firing everything over to England now to try and pick up the championship from poor Dan Skelton, who's going to get absolutely pummeled if he loses it now. You can see the appeal for the favourite in Chosen Witness. It's been backed in from 16s into 13 to 2, sorry now. Won on the card last year, over 3 miles for Paul Townend, carrying top weight at the time, won by I think a nose. The difference obviously this time is it's now over fences as opposed to hurdles. It's only the 3rd start, which obviously El said is something to look out for, the fact he's a novice. But I'm unsure, based on the form, if I'd be keen to weigh in at 13 to 2, finishing 7th, 3rd and unseating last time out. Willie is the absolute don of dons when it comes to training. So, he could have got this horse absolutely ready and he could win it. But at 13 to 2, I'm not quite sure I would go in for it. So the ones I've kind of fallen on were Surrey Quest being the first one at 11-1. I do love a horse that's run in the race previously and run well. The horse finished second last year in the race. I think we'll love the ground. Toby Law's not the biggest trainer, but he's in form. I think he's 1 from 4 at the moment, so a 25% strike rate in the last 2 weeks. He finished very good third off near top weight in the Edinburgh National as well last time out. He's £6 higher here today than he was last year, so that could leave a little question mark, but they pulled fairly far clear. I think him and McDermott last year, I think 4.5 lengths ahead of Gitmaker. So the £6 may obviously be able to do that. So I'd put that up each way. And then the other one would be Rock My Way for the Tizzards. I'm currently 11-1 again. He carries fairly low weight with 10 stone 11. And he had a really good run at Cheltenham in the Marathon National Hunt Challenge Cup, finishing only 4 lengths second to Hatton Colour. So I think whilst his jumping may not have been brilliant, if that's kind of come on a little bit, and he's only gone up £1 since that as well, I think he could have a decent chance at 11-1. So they'd be my 2 plays each way.
All right. Nice. Thanks, Duncan. So it's good to soft at the moment, it says. I don't know what the forecast is up in Scotland, up in air, but
Going to be dry.
it sounds like it'll be dry, would it? Yeah. Sounds like they've got good weather as well.
Yeah.
All right, good. Okay, Elliot, what are you saying?
Yeah, so similar theme to Duncan in that you've got to respect Mullins' horses now that he's absolutely firing all guns at the title. Interestingly, McDermott was the first Irish trained winner of this race since 1869. So not usually one for the Irish. They do tend to win most of our other races. But obviously they've got the Irish Grand National at Fairyhouse over Easter. So it's not unusual that they would send their good horses over for the Scottish Grand National. So it's probably more of a fact they haven't tried to win it, but clearly this year Willie's happy to send quite a lot over for it, and as Duncan said, Chosen Witness has been well backed. Won at the meeting last year over hurdles. You can sort of understand why. He's a novice, as I said. Up and coming horses tend to do well in this race, but he's only had 2 completed chase starts last time he unseated, and I just think he was actually quite held up in that hurdle race last year, and as I say, you need to be kind of racing prominently. I think there's a lot of risk in his profile, and I wouldn't be getting stuck in at the top of the market for all that you can respect Mullins. And he's also got the second fav in Olympic Man, and McDermott obviously won it last year, and McDermott's had an awful season, so you'd be hard pushed to sort of fancy him at the price he is. But, it is the master Willie Mullins, so who knows. But I think this Olympic Man won't stay, so I'd be quite happy to take him on. He looks like he sort of weakens out his races towards the end. If we can get rid of the top 3 in the market, we might be able to find a bit of a price. There's probably 2 I like in this. One of Willie's that I do like, because it'd be unsurprising to see him kind of win it with something. He's thrown enough darts at the board. Is his Captain Cody, which is interesting. He got Harry Cobden on, so I'm not sure where he ranks in the pecking order of jockeys between all of Willie's own jockeys, and then obviously a British jockey. Harry Cobden's probably the top British jockey, so I think that's quite a good booking. And he's a novice over fences. He's lightly raced. They've kind of gradually stepped him up in trip over fences, and he was running on all the way to the line in a beginner's chase at Navan in January, and third horse was 3 Card Bragg, which ran a good race for a long time in the Grand National last week, and then the second horse was going really, really well in the Leinster National before tipping up 2 out. So I think the form of that race looks really good. He did unseat in the National Hunt Chase at Cheltenham, which is a bit annoying, because you probably wouldn't want a horse coming off an unseat, but he's been given a mark of 140 for his handicap debut. I think he could be thrown in, so quite like Captain Cody. I'm just checking the price now, he's 12-1. And the other one I like is Surrey Quest, which Duncan has done a great job of covering. I just think if you want a horse that's going to be solid, he was second in the race last year. He is £6 higher, but he has placed off this mark this season. He's still an 8-year-old. He's still fairly lightly raced. He's had quite a light campaign, so he should be able to give his all in this race. And yeah, he ran an okay race in the Edinburgh National last time. So Surrey Quest at around, I've actually just got on at 11-1, 7 places Sky Bet. So get that snaffled up.
Nice, 7 places.
Yeah,
and there's less runners, isn't there, as well, than the
it's not
Grand
very
National.
I think I've got on a list here.
7 places is generous.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Mate, take the 11s. They're the best priced.
I was going to say. What do you think I'm on my phone now?
This is lie.
Yeah.
All right then. Thanks, guys. So, Pete, before we wrap up from our special guest, then what's the top tip then for the weekend?
Yeah, haven't done as much homework as boys. I think definitely.
You'll still come up with a winner, though, won't you?
Definitely in the Mullins camp, because he's going there to win. He's not going there for the day out. I think he's trying to create a legacy for Patrick Mullins. You notice him coming over much more often. He's trying to tick off every track. I think he's put him up on the owners of Galloping Champ's horse, Olympic Man. He's only ran 3 times over fences, but he won last time out. Agree with Elliot that sort of trip is a slight concern, but that's the way you win big handicaps when you're chancing for the first time. If he does take the trip, he could be well handicapped. So Olympic Man is my tip.
Olympic Man. All right, awesome. Well, on that note then, let's wrap it up. Thank you again, Pete, for our first guest. Hopefully this will pave the way for all of these guests that we're going to have knocking our door down over the next few months. So
you have to start at the bottom and work your way up.
No. Start at the top. You got to, it's all about you got to raise the bar. So appreciate your time today, Pete, and then hopefully. Yeah, we'll have good feedback and maybe even some more questions as well. So thank you everyone for tuning in to another episode of Tailed Off. Again, let us know if you like these podcasts. Drop us your questions for Pete or other guests in the future. Let us know your comments. If you like it, then just share and don't forget to subscribe. So watch us on YouTube, listen to us on Spotify, Apple, message us on tailedoffpod@gmail.com, and obviously social media as well. Instagram, TikTok, and the X. So thanks, guys. Until next time, have fun out there, race hard, and try not to be tailed off. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Hey, boys.
Cheers.
Position. Andy Power at the last flies down. Andy Power has gone but in front of the last left. Melody Light
Try the first time. They're running up towards the finish, and he's mistaken the winning post. He's mistaken the winning post completely, Roger Lockwood, and Hoyt